On this week's Hockey Inside Out, did Don Cherry go too far? And we also talk about the Canadiens. Welcome to this week's Hockey Inside Out, brought to you by Madison's New York Grill and Bar in downtown Montreal on Drummond Street, across from the Bell Centre, your home away from home for Canadiens road games. Okay, joining me today on this show, same as always, really, Stu Cowan from the Montreal Gazette, CBC Daybreak's Jessica Resnick, and Mr. Chris Nyland. During last Saturday's Hockey Night in Canada broadcast, Don Cherry infuriated many when he singled out "you people that come here" for not wearing poppies, implying that they do not support the Canadian military. Despite being known for sometimes saying offensive and outlandish things, this is the first time that Cherry has actually been reprimanded for his comments. On Monday, Sportsnet announced that it cut ties with Cherry. What do you think of Sportsnet firing Don Cherry?
Well, you knew it was going to happen at some point, and I think it was the right decision. It's not only were his comments so offensive and insulting to people. Imagine families of minorities who lost family members fighting for Canada in the war to be insulted like that and singled out. But I think if he had been man enough to apologize, he still would have had his job. But the fact that he refused to apologize, I think, says a lot about him. And I think he also thought he was bulletproof. I think he basically dared them fire me, because that's what's happened in the past. And this time they did fire him. And I think it was definitely a fireable offense. And I said just his refusal. Ron McLean apologized for giving the thumbs up in that, and Don Cherry refused. And when he refused, he made it pretty easy, I think, for Sportsnet to make the decision to fire him.
I think this is a long time coming for Don Cherry, that he's not really brought anything to the game in a long time, that it doesn't seem like he's really been following them, that his coach's corner time period is just him making different remarks that really has nothing to do with hockey that's going on right now. And it's time for a change, that Don Cherry had his time as coach's corner, and let's bring in something new, something fresh that will actually add to the game of hockey rather than divide those who like watching hockey and enjoy it.
Yeah, listen, I've had my issues with Don Cherry when that incident happened back in 2011 where he called myself, Stu Grimston, and Jim Thompson pukes. I don't hold that against him. Stu certainly was up in arms about it. I wasn't happy about it because I was quoted as saying I didn't want fighting in the game anymore. But that was somebody whispering in his ear. Someone gave him them three names, and he just went on the air and said it, not knowing. Anyway, he apologized for it. As far as what he said the other night, that's up to the viewer to discern who you people are. Now, you can certainly understand. I understand what he said. I know it sounded derogatory toward a certain group. What group? New immigrants or old immigrants? We won't know. But the fact of the matter is, he did say it. I think, and I've seen him interviews since saying he would have apologized, but they also wanted him to do something else. I don't know what that was. It seemed to bother quite a lot of people. It didn't line up with what Sportsnet stands for, apparently. And I don't have a problem with Don Cherry not apologizing, because I honestly, if he feels he's being true to himself, then that's the way he wants to deal with it.
I think
he is being true to himself.
I think if he had just got on the air and said all Canadians should wear a poppy, which I agree, and it's supported, and passionately explained why he thinks all Canadians should wear a poppy, I think it would have brought Canadians together. Instead, he chose to divide Canadians.
But you look at the whole thing, and again, it's an unfortunate situation, and people talk about Ron being an enabler, this one. I think Sportsnet, the president of Sportsnet, is the enabler, to be honest with you, because, and I love Don Cherry, but he was getting older. He had a hard time putting his thoughts together and getting the words out over the past 5 to 7 years. Like you could see Ron trying to help him along at times and do things for him and try and keep him on track. And I think the advertising dollars, obviously, for Sportsnet because they have a big nut to pay and getting the NHL rights. And, you know, I think they could have done that 5 years ago and it would have never came to this.
Well, Coach's Corner might live on Fox News because he was on with Tucker Carlson the other night, so I think they'll love him over there.
That was an interesting broadcast. Moving on to Canadiens news, the Canadiens beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-2 on Tuesday night. Can you recall seeing a better game from Carey Price?
Yeah, I'm sure he has. I mean, go back to his shutouts in the past, but I think it just showed. You could have made a highlight reel out of just the saves from that game. And I think it shows you why the Canadiens are paying him $10.5 million.
That the Philly game we're talking about? No, which game?
No, the game.
Last night.
Last night? Oh, better game is Philly game. Last night it was good, but the Philly game was a lot better.
But he showed why they're paying him $10.5 million, and he showed that he can. And he showed it last season when he carried this team on his back through the last 27 games or whatever it was, almost dragging them into the playoffs himself. So he just showed that he's still capable of doing that, and there's a reason why so many people still think he's the best goalie in the world.
And last week's show, we talked about his performance against the Boston Bruins. It wasn't his best, but then he was able to bounce back and really bail out his team, and that's what you need from Carey Price. He's one of the leaders on the team as well, and sometimes you need him to bail you out, and this could be a momentum gainer for the team, that if they do get down in a game, they can think, remember the Columbus game, how we were able to come back in the third period, and it could help them along the way.
I don't ever remember seeing him so excited after a win. He was jumping up and down. It was so like Mr. Cool was.
Yeah, he was happy, no question. I think you ask if there was a better performance. I think Tuesday night in Philly. I mean, he whatever night it was, but he had like 15 really good, dangerous, high-scoring chances. And then last night, again, I don't know how many, but the first two periods, this team was flat. Brendan Gallagher got him going again, but my concern is he has to be that great. And I hope that doesn't happen on a nightly basis. And until this team starts to play better defensively, he's going to have to stand on his head. And it's okay once in a while. But if you're always having to do it, that's what wears goaltenders down at the end of seasons. You're down the last 2 months of the season, and the goalie looks tired. Why is he tired? Because he had to stand on his head for the first 60 games.
Well, it's, in the salary cap world, your highest paid player has to be your best player, right? Connor McDavid at Edmonton, Sidney Crosby, all these guys, and Carey Price was that, and that's why the Canadiens won the game.
From what you've seen of Ben Chiarot at this point in the season, do you think that he can be the defenseman that the Canadiens have been looking for to play alongside Shea Weber?
No. I don't know about that. I think in certain situations, we saw it one time the other night. He played them together, and kind of here and there. But I don't know if that's the prototypical defenseman they wanted to play with Shea Weber. They wanted a good skating, puck-moving guy. I wouldn't put him in that category. He certainly did the job. They're good together at times, killing penalties, stuff like that. But I think he's improved a lot. The first maybe 10 games, I think he struggled with the system. I think he struggled in his new environment, and I think he's kind of turned a corner. I hope he continues the way he's going.
I think he's good for right now, kind of the same thing with Victor Mete when he plays with Shea Weber, but these are not partners that are meant for Shea Weber. If you have a defenseman of that caliber, you need to go out and find someone who's a really good partner for him. Right now, they just happen to be working well together, but he's definitely not the one that they've been looking for.
Well, as Claude Julien said, he's going to pair them up against big teams that have a big line, Boston, St. Louis, those guys, and they're two big, physical, strong guys, and they do play well together against those lines. And it's also, the other part of that is that you have Victor Mete playing with Jeff Petrie, two guys who can really skate, and it's fun watching those two guys together going up and down. So, again, he's not the perfect guy for Shea Weber for 82 games, but moving Mete and Chiarot in and out beside Weber, depending who they're playing against, is working for now. So we'll see if it can continue to work that for a whole season. But Chiarot, as Knuckles said, he's really improved since the first few games this season. When he looked slow, he looked a little bit lost. At one point when Claude Julien was talking about the penalty killing, so some guys are just cross-checking guys in front of the net. He didn't say Chiarot, but that's who it was. But he's really improved, and is coming to a new city, a new system, a new coach, new teammates. It's understandable that it would take a little while.
Okay. The first half of this show has been brought to you by Madison's New York Grill and Bar in downtown Montreal on Drummond Street across from the Bell Center. They do holiday parties and corporate events. Before sending him to Laval, Ryan Poehling was moved from center to wing. Do you think that was a mistake?
Well, they had to play him somewhere, and he wasn't going to play center. And the games he did play center, you don't think he won a face-off. So it's sort of he's got a lot to learn. They wanted to get him in. They wanted to see how he could do, and that was a spot that he could play. And when I asked Poehling about it, he said that he played wing for quite a few games with Team USA at the World Juniors last year, where he was named the outstanding forward. And he also said, which is true, it's a lot easier to move from center to wing than it is to move from wing to center. So they had to get him in the lineup and see what he could do. So that was the spot they could fit him in. They took a look at him. He only played 7 minutes, I think, against Columbus, and then they sent him back to Laval. So I think it's the right decision. He's going to Laval. He's going to play top minutes. He's going to learn the pro game, and we'll probably see him back here again by the end of the season.
I think it's kind of the same method as they did with Nick Suzuki, is that you have to ease these guys into the lineup, that you can't just give him the big spot and depend and expect a lot from him, that you have to move him in slowly, and I think this was just sort of the process with Claude Julien.
Yeah, he certainly looked overwhelmed at times, especially when he's playing center, then moved over to the wing. He looked to me like he wasn't reacting out there. He was kind of watching. He wasn't too reactive in situations. He wasn't anticipating. He didn't have that jump in his step. And I think, I honestly thought he was more ready than he obviously isn't. And looking at him down in Laval, the first time he went there, he said he wasn't happy. He sulked a little bit. That better not happen this time, because if it does, he's going to be in some trouble. He's going to get himself in trouble with his game, and then obviously management is going to keep a close eye on that. So he's better go down there and work on his game and try and get back here before the end of the season. He needs some time. I'm
sure Joel Bouchard will light a fire under his butt down there too, and I think it's a case too. A kid like Ryan Poehling, he's never been cut from a hockey team in his life. I'm sure he has. And I think after that hat trick in his first game in the NHL at the end of last season, I think he came into camp figuring I got a spot, and then he had the concussion during training camp. It didn't work out, and as Knuckles said, he went down to Laval, and he openly said that he sulked. He was wasn't into it. So he better get into it now, or he's not going to be back here the rest of the season. Now it's up to him. It's totally up to him to go down there and show that he belongs to be with the Canadiens and go down and dominate at the AHL level.
And I think that's the problem with some of these star players, that life has been very easy for them, and then they get to the NHL and it's no longer easy. They have to put in some extra work and realize that they're not going to be at the top of their game, and they just have to put that ego aside and say, okay, I'm going to work hard, do what it takes, and eventually I'll get to where I want to be.
The Canadiens rank third in the NHL with 24 third period goals. Why do you think they're so dangerous in the third period?
I just think they're a team that they don't quit, no matter how bad they're playing. That somebody steps up to the plate. We saw it again, Gallagher again last night. Yeah, you can call it a weak goal, but here's the deal. He shot the puck in a situation where maybe the goalie just wasn't ready, and it looked like he wasn't ready. So, I think this team, like I said last night, they were flatter than, I won't say it, but they were flat the first two periods, and they stuck with it. So, that's what I like about this team, but what I don't like is they have to dig themselves out all the time. It'd be nice to see this team go get a lead, play a good, solid game, and win the game without having to have Price stand on his head, without having Jonathan Drouin having to go in and win it in the shootout.
Well, as Brendan Gallagher says, shots for him, it's quality, not quantity. He just shoots the puck in. So Wayne Gretzky said 100% of the shots you take don't go in.
No,
or
Michael
you don't
Scott.
take 100% of the shots you don't take don't go in. So they don't give up. I mean, the first two periods, that Columbus game was like we were in the press box falling asleep. I went and got a coffee in the second intermission. But again, I was having flashbacks of 2 years ago, and this team was so bad and boring, but this isn't the same team. That team 2 years ago would have rolled over and died. This team doesn't die. They came back. They fought. Even when they went down 2-1 again, Tatar comes back, scores in the last minute with Carey Price on the bench. A beautiful pass from Nick Suzuki. So the one thing about this team is they don't give up. So don't change the channel after the second period if they're down by a goal or two, or don't go home, whereas 2 years ago you'd turn off the TV after the first period if they're down by a goal or two.
Well, that's just it, that they have this belief in them that it's not, 20 minutes. It's like, we've got 20 minutes to get ourselves back into this game. And as you mentioned, a few years ago when they would get down in games, there was no belief of coming back. And I remember talking to some of the players in the room back then, and they would say, when we get in a situation like this, our first thoughts is, oh no, here we go again. Whereas now it's, okay, we can do this. We have the ability to come back in games. We've done it before, and and that's what it's been helping them along along the
Well,
way.
when I asked Ben Sherrod about it, he's a new guy here, and he said the thing that impresses him about this team is they just keep playing the same way. Like if they're down a goal, they have enough confidence in the style of play that they play that they just keep doing it. They keep doing it, and they figure it's going to pay off in the end, and they've shown that they can come back.
Okay, that's all for this week's show, which has been brought to you by Madison's New York Grill and Bar in downtown Montreal on Drummond Street. That's the one across the street from the Bell Center, where you can wait out the traffic and enjoy their $10 specials after every Canadiens game. What was your reaction to Don Cherry's firing by Sportsnet? Will you miss him, or should he have been fired ages ago? Let us know in the comments section below. I'm Adam Susser, and we'll see you back here next Thursday.